Greetings, CSS 299 class. I hope week one went well for you. I just want to kind of rehash the week one and make sure everyone was comfortable with that information. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. All of the grading through week one is currently turned back to, I think I completed it yesterday afternoon. So if you have any questions on the remarks that I've made, please let me know. You can reach me at 208-383-4540, and my extension is 1807. So I just want to rehash just a little bit about what you should have covered in week one. I know some of us had the opportunity to meet face-to-face. It's been hard to keep everybody together. This has been a group of quite a few different individuals with different time frames. So hopefully these recordings are beneficial to you to be able to keep you up to speed on the requirements of this class. So I just want to talk a little bit more quickly about transferable skills. At this point, most all of you have turned in your pre-industry resume that had some room for improvement on most of them. I made some comments. Some were very well put together. You know, take to heart some of the recommendations that I made to you and see if they'll work in your resumes. I really hope that you had a chance also maybe to look at your jobs that you had listed on your resumes. Everyone had pretty good setups in their resumes. I was concerned a little bit with some of the color that was used in some. Inconsistencies in fonts was another concern. But again, I made some bulleted comment marks throughout the resume. So just make sure to review those and see what you can do to polish those up just a little bit. I made some recommendations on some of them to move education a little further to the top and just kind of go through and see if there's any more true skill sets that you'd like to incorporate into those resumes. Another area that I also wanted to talk about was the reminder for your informational interview that it's due in week 4. It's really essential that you get this pulled together early enough so you can schedule a time to meet with that individual, whoever it is that maybe you look up to, or maybe they might possibly hold the career that you're looking at wanting to attain one day. So being able to pick their brains for additional information to help you be successful is going to be really beneficial to you. The library assignment is also coming due, and I need to change the date. It needs to be due in week 3, and right now it's showing as week 4. I know I do have it embedded down here as a library assignment skill sets in week 3, but up in the top section it does say week 4. So in fact, I'm going to fix that right now so there's no confusion, so you guys can just watch me fix that. So it is now due in week 3. And if you need any help with that, please let me know. I'm going to click it open here real quick just so you know what you're in for. It shouldn't take you a long time to go through and do this. It is just going through and watching a video, which will be up here in just a few minutes, that talks about, 7 skills students need for their future. You're going to be developing a 2-page APA paper, and I want to see it polished. You are all towards the end of your program, and you should know how to put together a nice title page and how to develop a reference page. And then give me a minimum of at least 2 references off this video backing up the information that you're sharing in the paper that you write. Remember to use in-text citations where applicable, so your reference page ties into the paper where you've used that information. So many times I see these beautiful papers written, and all of a sudden I go to cross-reference the back page of your paper to the internal part of your paper that you've developed, and they don't match up. So please just be really cautious about that. Go through and fine-tune it a little bit. It won't take you very long to go through and watch the video, and I really highly recommend taking notes as you watch it. It's not a super long video, but yet I think you could save yourself time if you took some really good notes on that. As we go into week 2, we'll kind of touch on the importance of an elevator speech, and we're towards the end of week 2 now. It's Thursday afternoon. So thinking about some of the objectives that you need to be meeting in this class is, being able to develop a cover letter that's professional to the targeted job that you're wanting to apply for. In week 1, you had to go out and select 3 different job possibilities to apply for in your career industry that you would either be closely qualified for, or maybe it's a dream job. It might be a little bit of a stretch, but I think that if you take the time to go through and dissect, you only have to pick 1 out of those 3 job listings to do this overall portfolio that you're going to be doing with a cover letter and a targeted resume. So at this point, I need you to go through that one particular job posting that you really want to apply for. Take a highlighter if you need to. Highlight how many times a certain word appears in there. Employers will repeat repetitive times within the job posting their dream skill sets of what the potential candidate should have. Don't panic if you don't have everything. So many times employers will post out that they want 10 years experience and 5 years of this and 12 degrees, and that's not always the case. Sometimes employers will be willing to settle for something a little bit less. Even if you don't have experience, I highly encourage you to apply for the position. Don't overstretch boundaries though. So say, for example, if you're in IT and you see senior networking analyst with 10 years, well, maybe take that to heart. Senior analyst maybe means a little more advanced with practice in field. Doesn't always mean that it needs to say, you know, entry level, no experience, et cetera, et cetera. I always encourage you, even the mid-level jobs, put your resume in for it. Push those boundaries just a little bit. So being able to create an elevator speech, here in just a few minutes, I'll show you a short little clip on what an elevator speech is. Being able to draft a professional reference list is also very critical for your resumes. I know a lot of the resumes that were submitted in week 1 did not have a reference list attached to it. I don't think any of your resumes, now that I think back through it, and it didn't have the references available on request. Please don't do that on your resumes. Make sure that's not there. The one thing I want you to think about doing is using the same header that you use at the top of your resume on the top of the reference page as well. And I'll see if I can locate one real quickly just so you can see what it looks like or how it should be formatted. Some of you did turn in a reference page and it was lacking a lot of information. So I'm going to just briefly rattle through what should be in a reference page or the references that you're wanting to use to apply for a career with. I'm going to tell you it needs to be, obviously, the name of the individual, the professional position that the individual holds, the company they're affiliated with, obviously. In what aspect do they know you? Were they your supervisor? Were they just a friend? Most of the time you're wanting professional references, so you're going to want to have someone that you have physically worked with in a working environment where they've been able to observe what it is that you've done. I want an address. Nothing worse than not having an address on your reference page. I want a telephone number. Always remember to include the area code. If it's 208 or 425 or 505, whatever it might be, you need to make sure that you have the area code included on the phone number section. And then I also need an email for that individual. Some of you that I met with in person, we talked a little bit about this and the importance of having a way to reach out to those individuals to do reference checks. Sometimes chasing people around through phone calls isn't very successful for individuals needing to ask questions. If I can shoot out an email to the email provided and get a response back, that gives me documentation showing that I have collected the data that I was asked to for my employer, so I can legitimately say, yes, this person performed this job, in what capacity, how many years they performed the job, and the titles that they held while they were either under my supervision or worked side by side with me. So it's important that you have all of those components in there again. So as we continue on here, you know, what is in a cover letter? Well, it should be sent out with every single resume, especially the industry-specific jobs that you're applying for. It helps you, first of all, let the employer know a brief overview of your qualifications. Yes, your resume is attached, but it kind of gives them a better skill set of what you have done as an individual and why you want that job. Cover letters should complement, not duplicate your resume. That's huge. I don't want you saying the same thing all over again in a cover letter that you've already put into your resume. Utilize those two different pages to be able to get that employer's attention. A cover letter is often your earliest written contact with the potential employer. So this is where you create your first impressions. And those of you that don't know what first impressions are, it's when they initially meet you and the engagement they have about you, whether it's online or face-to-face. So most of the time anymore, we apply for jobs online. And when we're applying in an online environment, we don't want to send a cover letter that has a lot of typos in it. We want to make sure that the setting and the font and the layout is professionally laid out. You want to set forth your organizational skills, the talent sets, whatever it takes to paint a good picture within that cover letter to help you be successful. So as we get going a little bit deeper, always remember, it's hard to go back and change the impression that you make on a potential employer. If by chance you are a person who likes to reuse cover letters and just revamp it, always make sure that you've taken the other contact information out. There's nothing worse than you applying for a job and leaving another employer at the top. They don't know if you're just blanket mailing out these cover letters or what you're doing, so just be really careful with that. Make things interesting. So in your modules, it talks a little bit about what should be in your cover letter format, your greetings, how you should set it up. I set my cover letters up a little bit differently because I don't put my contact information at the top of the page. I usually put it down where my signature line would be, because that is the last place. As they're reading through it, they're going to zone right in on my phone number. They're going to see my email, and hopefully after they've read that, they go, okay, this is a potential candidate, click, and they'll go after me from the resume or the cover letter and be able to connect with me. So in here it talks a little bit about, greetings, how are you, stating the job title you're applying for. Sometimes there may not be a job title. There might just be a job number. Remember, employers may have multiple listings running around for different departments, so really make sure that you fine-tune and apply exactly how they request you to do it. If you have a name, it's so much better, but sometimes it might be the Dear Hiring Manager letter. Express your interest in the job and in the company. That's where your company research is going to come in really handy. What do you know about the organization? How do your goals, your personal goals, and your values align with the organization that you're applying for? Is this a place that you could see yourself fitting in? Like I had mentioned before, if you get an opportunity to go into an organization, if it's open to the public, some places are a little more difficult in a professional setting just to waltz right in and check out what goes on in the environment. If it's a place you can go into and walk around and just blend in with the rest of the organization, that might give you a heads up about how people interact with one another and whether or not that environment is best suited for you as a professional. You're going to be spending a lot of time in that environment if you're hired, and you're going to be networking with those people in those organizations. So really making sure that you feel you're a good fit for the organization. Never apply for a job just to get a job or a career. That's not the name of the game. Job hopping is not beneficial. So really fill that out and make sure that you're a good fit for the organization before you go through the application process. The overall argument, this is kind of the middle point of your paper, persuading the reader why you would be a good fit for the company. Tell me why. I don't want 15,000 sentences about why you're so amazing. I want you to call out the key components that make you what that company wants. Using the job description, and I mentioned that just a few minutes ago, identify important skills or qualifications you have that they've called out in that job description. Include strong reasoning and examples as to why you would be a good fit for the job based off your past experience or even your coursework. If you're a student just graduating and you don't have any real life application other than what you did gain in school, kind of spell that out in that area. You can count classroom experience as experience. And then avoid explaining your resume. They're going to read your resume, I guarantee it. So put something different in your cover letter than what you've got showing in your resume to draw that employer more towards determining whether or not they want to bring you in for that all important either phone interview or the face-to-face interview or the panel interview, whatever it is that you're going through. So that just gets you one step closer to that potential job. The closing, which is tying everything up in a nice little nutshell. Restate the main points, why you and your expectations, values, goals, whatever it might be, align with the organization's missions and goals. Restate again, I can't stress this enough, how your experience will benefit the organization. Have a positive demeanor and be upbeat. And sometimes people go, well, I'm just writing it on a piece of paper. How are they going to know I'm excited? They can read in the tone in which you write. And then thank your reader for the consideration, the potential employer, and then sign your name professionally. Very important that you follow this formatting. Like I said, you don't have to have a 2 or 3 page letter. Short, sweet, and concise is very important. References, it talks a little bit more about that and how many references you should ideally have. You'll want to read through this information and get some additional pointers. Building a relationship with your references as well. Those of you that I had a chance to meet with face-to-face, I visited with you a little bit about the importance of contacting that potential reference that could either make or break whether or not an organization decides to hire you. If they don't know that the reference request is coming in, they may get caught off guard. And if they're busy or distracted, they might go, who? And you never want that to happen if somebody calls in to get a reference check from you specifically. Different information in here, when to submit references. They say that it should be submitted later in the hiring process. I personally provide mine up front. It just kind of depends on how you feel comfortable providing that information to the potential employer. I always just have mine as part of my resume setup. The back part, I figure if it's got to go in, it's going to go in at that point in time. As we continue on here, like I had mentioned earlier, there's a short little video. It's kind of cute, quirky, but it shows you a little bit about what an elevator speech is. And this is ideally supposed to be an in-class learning activity where we're sitting in the classroom talking about it. But I'm going to go ahead and play it so you can get some ideas of what an elevator speech is. Looking at the demeanor, I might stop it along the way, I might not, I might just discuss it afterwards. We'll see how we go with the recording here. An elevator speech, just so you know, it talks a little bit about what this is. It's a 30-second overview of an individual's knowledge, skills, and accomplishments. What are the highlights you want that particular individual to know about you? So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get this up and going. You know, down below here, it has a great example. I'll read this out loud real quick. You can read it as well. It is embedded into your modules section in week 2 under the in-class activity of elevator speeches. Hi, my name is Mary Jane. I am currently a sophomore student attending ABC College. My major is in business with a minor in art. I have volunteered with student credit unions throughout my first and sophomore year at college. Last summer, I completed an internship with the Museum of Modern Arts. And I'm not going to read all of this, but it kind of gives you an idea of the pitch that you want them to know about you. What have you done to give back? What have you done in field? How are you engaged in the field that you're in? Selling you is so critical in this elevator speech, and you will be giving one in the last week, so that's something that you'll have to have put together for your final presentation time as well. We'll have to get those times worked out. I know everyone has a little bit different of a schedule that they're adhering to. So if worst case scenario, I'd much rather have it face-to-face. So if that doesn't happen, I'm going to have you record it and send it to me so there's an audio version of it so I can give you constructive feedback on that so you have it for future use. So with that said, I'm going to be quiet for a few minutes and I'm going to go ahead and play this video and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about elevator speeches. So hang on, here we go.
done well, then you know what? You know who to talk to. All right, so okay.
Oh my God, hi, I'm Chris. It's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, President Oldham. I'm a college business ambassador, and I like art and painting and wakeboarding. My mom is like our biggest fan. Can we take a picture together really quick? Will you hold it? Take our picture? Your arms are longer.
Okay. I'm not sure.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. I'll send it to her. Okay. So, how are things? How's the First Lady and the kids? You know, you'll just say cheese?
Sure.
So, what are your plans as president?
Well,
what was it? Have you met awesome people? He's really cool. I like your shoes. They're really shiny. Do you shine them yourself? You're the president. I bet you have somebody to do that for you. Cool. You're just the nicest guy. Oh, this is my floor. I'll see you later.
Hey, President.
hello.
My name is Jessica Terrell.
Hey, Jessica.
I'm a college of business ambassador, and I'm also on the speech and debate team. I have some great ideas that could really help this college. I know you're a very busy man, but I would love to let you hear them.
I'd love to hear them. I'm just headed to lunch. I was going to grab a bite. You want to go talk now?
Yes, thank you. I love that.
That'd be great.
All right, as you can see, elevator speeches can be very awkward, or elevator speeches can be very good. They can develop a rapport. Giving individuals an opportunity to speak back with you is very important as well. You saw the one gentleman that continuously kept asking questions and never allowed the other gentleman or the president of the company to fully answer the question. The setup with the other two individuals, the gentleman in the plaid shirt and then the business suit, you know, thinking about the demeanor in which they approached and the awkwardness of having multiple people in an environment as you go to introduce yourself might also be an issue later down the road. So I really encourage you to kind of look at some of these examples. Oh my goodness, if you go out online, you're going to be able to find a whole bunch of different examples. And go out to YouTube and find some different ones. That's where this one has come from. But it gives you an idea of some of the components you need to have in that. They want to know, just like in a cover letter or resume, what you've accomplished, who you are, what your interests are, and all of that kind of needs to be wrapped into about 30 seconds worth of time, enough time to step in an elevator and ride down one floor. So that will allow you to enable or engage in additional conversation. You saw the individual as she stepped out of the elevator with the president. It opened up an opportunity for them to network and possibly even end up with a career position, or maybe find someone who's willing to be a mentor. The other section here that you're going to need to do for this week, another in-class assessment, is figuring out, once you've identified the company that you're applying with, you need to conduct some research. Knowing about the company, their history, vision, mission statement, and goals can help strengthen both not only your cover letter, but also help you develop a targeted resume that will help you be more effectively prepared for an interview if that opportunity arises. You know, some of the questions that you might want to look at, or some of the things you may be searching for, depends on what you do. If you can get to an organization to walk through it and get more details, that's great. But most of the time in the professional career industry, you're not going to have much of a chance to scope the place out. You may be familiar with it, you may shop there, you may do business with them, but you don't really know what goes on behind the scenes. So this is where I highly encourage you to turn to the internet. Go out there. See who this company is. If you're not familiar with them, look for their mission statement. Look for their vision statement. What are some of the unique goals and expectations that they're trying to accomplish? What do they initially do? When were they started? Nothing better than showing curiosity and being able to ask questions about an organization when you get in an interview situation. So say, for example, if you're going out to interview, you should do all of this research prior to getting there. If they start asking specifics about their company, a question might be as simple as, so tell me, what do you know about our company? And if you don't have any idea of what they do or who they service or the people that they engage with, you're probably not going to be very successful in the interview because you haven't taken the initiative to go out and do some fact gathering, I guess is the best way to call it. Where are the companies located? These are all the questions that you need to answer before you even get yourself into an environment where you are being asked questions. How are they different from other businesses who sell similar products or services? Why do you want to work in the position that you're applying for? These are some of the things you need to have a populated answer for before you get into an interview room, because I guarantee you, you will be nervous, you will be shaky. That is just normal when you go to an interview. Figure out why you want to work for the company as well. I think it's important that we have an idea of what it is that company does. Changing jobs is not beneficial for you, and it's not beneficial for the company, because companies put a lot of money and training and investment into their new hires and even their continued staff that have been with them for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, maybe longer. So that's one of the most expensive parts of doing business, is the human resources side, and also from the perspective of training and making sure employees are performing at the level that they need to be performing at. I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead. So if you have any questions on this, please let me know. But I think it's really critical that you go through, and the job that you've selected from week 1, you know, you had picked the 3. The one you are developing your targeted resume and cover letter and reference page and whatnot towards, this is where you're going to go research that particular company and answer these questions down below. That's what you need to find out. And then you will be submitting this in as a Word document. Please just upload it and get that submitted into the Dropbox for week 2. I'm going to go ahead and step ahead here just a little bit. We're going to continue through and make sure that we hit on all the elements for this week. All right, so this week is where you're going to be turning in your rough draft, which means just what you've got laying around the house right now. Or you can maybe polish it up just a little bit so you don't have as much work next week in week 3. So some of the things you're going to want to think about, obviously, you don't want to use mom or dad as a reference. I know maybe you've worked for them, but maybe not in the professional aspect. They could maybe be personal in a professional sense, but I would really try to stay away from family members if possible when doing references. It all depends on the situation. So in here, like I had said, there's a few components that I'm looking for. Obviously the name, the professional name the individual goes by as the reference, the position the person holds in the organization and the title of the company, the address, the email, and a phone number that I can reach out to if I want to get additional information about your performance at that particular company. When you're doing professional references, like I said, again, please make sure that you have engaged or worked in an environment where these individuals have seen your performance. There's a big difference between personal references and professional. Personal references know you on a different basis than in a work environment, whereas professional have actively engaged in a working environment with you. So there's a lot of difference between those two, and employers are always looking for professional references. So just take that into consideration when you're going through to develop your reference list. In here, I said a minimum of 3 professional references, maximum of 4 references. So you've got some alternatives in there. You want to perfect them all and submit them, that's great. I can give you some feedback and some layout tips. The other thing that was not in this list is number of years known. If you feel like you need to add that extra component, you can put that in there so the individual knows how long this individual has worked in a working environment with you or has seen you perform. So that's another thing that you might want to add. You don't have to. As long as you hit these requirements here, you'll get full points for that. Continuing on, we're going to jump into the cover letter. Again, there was the example earlier that I walked through earlier in the module. If you go back to that, There's some more detail in here. In the booklet under the week 1 reading, so if you go back to modules, let me just jump over there real quick. We'll go back to mod 2 in just a minute. So if you go under the week 1 reading and tools, there is a great big career services binder in there that when you open it up, it has some example cover letters and some different styles of writing. So I highly encourage you to go in there and look through some of the samples. Let me see if I can get it opened up here real quick. So it is right here. It is under the week 1 reading and tools. And if you click down in this section here, it says Career Resource Packet 2016 Docs. Go in there, and I believe, well, let's go ahead and open it up. Give me just a second here, and we'll bounce around a little bit. If you get this opened up, you can get in there, and there's some samples. Here we go. Hang on just 1 second. It's thinking slowly. All right, so once it opens up, let me scroll through here real quick and I'll kind of get you an idea of where it's at. Oh, let's see. You go into cover letters, so let's get down here a little bit. You'll scroll through certifications. So cover letters. So it looks like it's probably about 5 or 6 pages in, and there's some different information about how to put together a cover letter. I really encourage you to go through and read this information as you start developing. There's some different setups. Like I had shared earlier, I never put my information here. However, if you want everything to look consistent between your cover letter, your resume, and your reference page, you're more than welcome to do this. Usually this information here I take and I put it down here in my signature line area. I don't ever duplicate this here and then also up above. I just think it looks a little busy. But if you're comfortable with writing it that way, be my guest. There's some additional cover letters down in here, how you can do block format if you choose to do that. One thing that's missing in here, I think, as I look at this cover letter, I mentioned it earlier, is the job number or job reference that you're applying for. Really make sure that that's up here somewhere in the line. I usually would go over by my date somewhere and put that information. So make sure that you're referencing the particular job that you're applying for. Again, all of this is located in the career resource packet that's provided in your shell under week 1 reading and tools. Then it goes into more resumes and guidelines. There's some amazing information in this book. There's 64 pages to it, but it is well worth you taking the time to make sure that you have everything set up correctly to be successful and to do the best you possibly can on these resumes and cover letters. So we're going to go ahead and jump back over to modules again. We'll talk a little bit more here. Let me get down towards the bottom. So we've talked about your reference list, the requirements in there. We've talked about elevator speeches. I showed you the video. I've also talked to you about doing the company research, why that's important for you to go in and do prior to getting into an interview situation. Then I also need you to resubmit again this week your revised industry resume with the recommendations that I have made for you. Like I have told some of you that I've met with face-to-face, these are at your discretion. If you like my changes, great. If you don't like my changes, you're not required to change it, but I guarantee that some of the input is going to really make your resumes pop. Try it. You might like it. So please get that accomplished. And again, reassess, because you are developing this targeted industry resume now towards that particular job of the 3 you chose in week 1. And I really need to see that kind of shine through in this resume that's submitted for week 2. You'll have an opportunity to to turn in everything the very end as a whole set. You'll be emailing that to me. But I really need to make sure that you have everything all beautiful and polished by the time you complete this class. You also have a threaded discussion forum post. I haven't been in there yet. They were due last night, so I'll jump in there and communicate with you through that area. And that should take us to the end of week 2. So please let me know if you have any concerns or questions about homework, if there's anything that you would like me to talk a little bit deeper about. Next week, we're going to be talking about first impressions and branding yourself. I always tell students, you know, we may feel like we live in a very large community, but we are truly a small-knit community, and you cross too many people too many times, and you might find yourself having a difficult time getting a job. Demeanor, you know, Dr. Miner, if you remember Dr. Miner, if any of you had him along your career path, he always used to talk a little bit about knowledge, skills, and disposition. And it's really important that you understand that knowledge, you know, that can be book smart. And there's some people in this world that are really, really book smart, but they're not really good in the world environment, getting out there and networking with people. Then there's going to be the skill sets. You know, many of you have industries, career industries you're going into that skill set is everything. But, you know, the very last component, and again, this works into next week's lecturing, we'll talk about, and that's first impressions and how people view you and understand you as an individual. I really want you to step back and look in the mirror. There's nothing better than practicing interview skills or practicing your demeanor in front of the mirror, because what you're seeing is what other people are seeing. Are you dressed professionally? Is your hair kept and groomed? Are you polished? You know, if you go to an interview all wrinkled and ragged and you haven't brushed your teeth in a week, or you haven't brushed your hair, and you just really don't show that engagement that you want to be part of that organization, you're probably wasting your time going to that interview. So dress for success. We'll talk a little bit about that as well, and how you can really pull that off. You can get some basic pieces for interview and for work attire that are not extremely expensive. And we'll visit a little bit about that next week, about how you can put your first impression forward and make it a positive one, because it's really hard to take back something when it's already been seen. It's no different than speaking before we think. So always make sure that you're reviewed and polished. So please let me know if any of you have any questions. I hope this presentation has been beneficial for you. I touched on all the components. Again, I just want to make sure that you guys have time to set up an informational interview. So I'm going to pop this up just one more time. I know I didn't open it earlier, but I just want to reinforce how critical it is that you set a time to meet with these individuals. Most of these are working people that you'll be dealing with, and so you need to make sure that you're prepared in advance. All right, so I'm just going to read through this. An important component of industry readiness, which means making sure that you know what you're getting yourself into professionally, is the basis of conducting informational interviews. Picking someone else's mind that already does this professionally day in and day out. How they develop their network, how you refine that situation with them. It all depends on the demeanor that you take. These individuals could save you so much time, and they can help you not repeat maybe some of the mistakes that they've made in their navigation to where they're currently at. And you know what? Honestly, I'd much rather listen to somebody that's been there and done that already and be able to not repeat those mistakes and move quicker up the ladder than do the exact same thing that they did, because maybe they weren't taught how to do informational interviews. On average, you should ideally have some questions put together that you need to ask or want to ask. What is it about that career that you want to know that's going to help you be successful? I'm going to say you should put together at least a minimum of, I'm going to say 7 to 10 questions. That should give enough time for you to ask the questions and carry on a conversation. I want you to turn those questions into me so I can review them also. Very important. So if you get a chance to turn these in a little bit early, or you want me to review them, please email them to me, and I might be able to guide you just a little bit if you're hesitant on what those questions should be. Remember, when you go out to these informational interviews, I really prefer that you not do them over the phone. That's kind of defeating the purpose of getting you out there and networking and being comfortable dealing with strangers in different environments. But if you have to, worst case scenario, you can do them by phone. If you are going out, dress professionally, be on time. Don't schedule an appointment and not show. Make sure you ask those questions professionally and take notes. If the individual will let you record, amazing. Record those notes. If those individuals will let you do a Zoom session, do a Zoom session with them. Whatever it takes for you to be able to get the information you need to be able to prepare your presentation for the class. All right, so some of the guidelines when you're setting up an interview, make sure to identify yourself and that you're a student from Stevens-Heiniger College and you're collecting this for a class project. Be sure to explain that you're not looking to apply for a job unless maybe they offer or extend the opportunity to apply for a job. I'll never tell you not to do that. But just tell them you're seeking information for your assignment. If you're turned down, keep seeking other opportunities. Don't use that as a stopping point. Sometimes people's schedules are full and they're going to honestly say, I'd really love to, but my schedule is just, it's just not possible right now. And don't take that as a negative or let that leave a bad taste in your mouth, because ideally working professionals are just that, busy working professionals. Waiting will leave you very little time. Stress, stress, stress. We're into the end of week 2 already to get this assignment completed. So please don't wait till the last minute to carry these out. These are due in week 4. Cancellations obviously do happen. People get called off to do other tasks or projects. So make sure that it gives you enough time to get everything that you need, or if you have to go somewhere else to get the information, have a backup plan. I can't stress to you how important that is. Schedule a second interview if necessary if you don't get all the information you need. But I think that if you develop those 7 to 10 questions, I'd probably just say you might need to ask 5 the whole entire way through. But if you've got an assortment, having something to drive that conversation is really important with the individual that you're doing the informational interview with. So I encourage you to do that. Have some backup components, you know, and you might even think of different questions as you get going in the informational interview that you don't have written down. And that definitely helps a lot in the process of being able to collect information to help you make better career choices in your industry. So with that said, I think it's bringing it to an end for this presentation for week 2 of CSS 299. Like I said, utilize all the resources that have been incorporated into this shell for you. That resources manual, the 64 pages, has some great information, covers everything from interviewing to elevator speeches to cover letters and references and resumes. That's what those sources are for. So please reach out and use those to help you be successful in this class and in the future going forward. Next week, again, I will be recording a session. If you need one-on-one assistance, I am more than willing to do a Zoom session with you or meet with you. My schedules are a little bit tight, but I am here for you to be successful. Myself or Jody Short can reach out and help you. She's great as well. So if you need assistance and I'm not available, please ask for Jody Short and she can help answer any questions that you might have. Again, get prepared for heading into week 3. Again, we'll be talking about first impressions and branding yourself, which is so critical out in the workforce anymore. Again, the other reminder too, as I told you, I did change the library assignment from week 4 to week 3. So that is going to be a component that is due in week 3. So please get on top of things, get in there and make sure that you get your discussion forum posted and get your 2 follow-up responses in there. And I look forward to either speaking with, or getting a phone call from you in the near future. So I will talk to you all next week. I'll be on campus tomorrow, in and out of meetings. Tomorrow's Friday. So let me know if you need anything and I will sure get back to you as quickly as I can. Thank you and have an awesome weekend.